you think the world would be safer with Donald Trump returning to the presidency?
100%.
I know without a fact it would.
Without a fact, it would be a safer world.
That is Jordan Klepper in his recent special for The Daily Show called Jordan Klepper Fingers the Pulse, Moscow Special, which you can watch right now on The Daily Show's YouTube page. I recommend that you do. Jordan Klepper is a key member of The Daily Show news team, and we're honored to have you on the issue. It's the first time. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So that special focused on what's happening between the U.S. and Russia, looking at the issue of whether people in America really kind of like the idea of autocracy. What did you find?
Well, I think we noticed on the campaign trail that a lot of people in the MAGA world were speaking highly of Vladimir Putin, were echoing some Russian talking points, and so this was sort of a chance for us to delve into that, see how the Republican Party has gone from a party that used to stand up to Russia to one that embraced one, and it took us all the way even to Estonia to try to talk to some people who had a little bit of a clearer idea as to what autocracy looked like.
Yeah, literally right next to Russia.
Yeah.
So what was the biggest surprise for you from that whole experience?
Well, right off the bat, when you run into a woman who watches Vladimir Putin shirtless videos for fun, like they're just cat videos, that's a surprise. You're like, I thought I'd seen everything, and I've been on the road, I've seen a lot of things. That was a shock.
I mean, when you look at those pecs, though, I mean, if you got it, flaunt it, right?
I gotta say, yeah, she said it, we Googled it, we're like, it is nice. He does work out. So there's
really
only
is.
so much misinformation, but in the end, push-ups, when you take your shirt off, you can't hide that.
Yeah, so that is a great clip, but I have to say, my favorite clip from one of your shows ever was from, I think this may have been the first episode of your show, The Opposition. This is when you were in Phoenix covering a Trump rally. I want you to watch this clip.
If you look closer, you can see a lot of cameras out there, and that's the mainstream media. Don't trust anybody who's talking to a camera.
Don't trust anybody.
Lord. My Lord, yes.
Camera.
Yes.
Yeah, so there we are.
I'm sorry. Has this been a ruse?
I mean, this whole thing was just for that moment to get you here.
Bring him on my show. Bring him on my show. He thinks this is funny. He's going to run around, use me as B-roll. The joke's on you now, Klepper.
That was so funny, though.
Wow.
And thank you for doing that. I remember seeing you out there. Been a big fan of you for a long time.
That day was very hot, if I recall.
It was very hot. And then there was protests, and people ended up getting pepper sprayed and all this sort of stuff later on that night. But you have really been the guy at all these different Trump rallies, talking to Trump supporters. What have you learned from Trump supporters?
Oh, that's a big ask. What have I learned?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily go to Trump events to learn things. I've learned that Americans are more creative than we give them credit for. I learned that Americans need meaning in their lives. They need community. That's something that I definitely relate to when I go to these events, is the sense of community that appears at one of these events. People feel like they can be a part of something. You put on a hat, you see other people wearing hats. They might have a similar point of view as yours. You feel like you're amongst friends. I think that's very real. What gets scary is what I've noticed over the last 6 months to year and a half is these events are getting darker and darker. People are feeling a little bit wounded, a little bit behind the gun. I think since this Trump conviction as well, like people are angry. And so what started as like rah-rah, we're a part of this exciting political conversation. When Trump lost the elections, things took a turn for it being darker and the Stop the Steal, and now I think it's heading in a scary direction.
So you're saying that it was more fun and he may have been more fun in 2016?
I think so. I will say, still going to these events now, they are a circus for anyone who attends. They seem smaller and they seem more bitter. That doesn't mean that can't be playful to some, and some don't see the anger and the vitriol that Trump exudes, but there's a darker undertone that's there.
You know, you have talked about this concept of trying to talk to people you disagree with, because clearly some of these folks you disagree with at these Trump things, and you actually did a TED Talk about this concept, and you talked about sort of 3 things that everybody can do to try to expand their worldview. One of them was read a book.
Yes.
Another one is to travel, get outside, and the third thing is concede something.
Yes.
What do you mean by that, and what have you conceded?
Oh, Jesus, you want me to concede now? It makes me vulnerable. I think what I found is, in order to win, if debating one another is all about who can win, who can lose, which I think is a terrible way of looking at it, but if you really want somebody to come over to your side, you have to show vulnerability. You have to concede. You have to lose. with my Republican family members, with my friends, the only time we can actually have a real conversation and not just talking points and posture is when one of us can show a little bit of uncertainty. Like, you know what? I don't know all of those economic reasons for why we're where we are right now. Mm-hmm. You know what? I feel like I'm emotional about the things that are happening at the border, but I also don't know if I trust the Democrats' plan for stopping the issues at the border. If you can show that little space with uncertainty, often not in front of a camera or in front of parents who are judging you, but one-on-one in some sort of setting, I think those are the moments where things soften. And that's what I've found in my life, how we can actually get to, I don't want to say middle road, but get to a place where you actually are hearing somebody for the first time.
Is it hard to do it without being condescending?
Now, you're asking the wrong guy. Let me tell you how to do it. It totally is.
Yeah.
And I think like the culture we're in right now, the media culture we're in right now, is not creating spaces for people to be vulnerable, to be uncertain. Nobody's retweeting uncertainty.
Yeah.
It doesn't really play
Nuance.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, let me retweet this and this and this.
Yeah.
And there's not that kind of space. And so it does, but I think it's going to feel smug if it's coming from a tactical place. It has to come from an earnest place. And again, we're so far away from that in our public conversations. I think that TED Talk was sort of a plea to try to find space for it in your private ones.
All right, well, let's go back to the beginning for you at The Daily Show when this kid from Michigan became a correspondent in 2014, and Jon Stewart introduced him.
For more on the story, we're joined by our new senior Caucasian correspondent, Jordan Klepper. Jordan, thank you for joining us on the program. We appreciate you doing it.
Look at that baby face.
Oh my Lord, that is a child right there.
Yeah.
You can see the years of torment, right? It's been a tough decade. Can you see this?
Yeah.
The grays.
Yeah, you look good. So Jon Stewart first introduced you. You were there when he hosted the first time. You were there when Trevor Noah hosted. You're now there when Jon Stewart is back. What is the biggest lesson that you have learned from Jon Stewart?
I mean, I think when you lay it out that way, the lesson is don't let go of a good job when you have it. Health insurance is important. Never, never let it go.
Yeah.
You hear me, Los Angeles? You run that thing into the ground. You know what? Here's a lesson that Jon Stewart gave me. When I did step away for a little while and did my own show in there. I did The Opposition.
Which was a great show.
Thank you very much. And a show called Klepper. And I had a talk with Jon because, all joking aside, he's the best to ever do it and one of the people I respect most in this world. And I was nervous about hosting my own show. And something he told me was like to not be afraid to lend your voice to the conversation. And it's small and it's little, but I think like as a Michigan boy, even though I play the big confident guy on TV, there's nothing but imposter syndrome behind these eyes.
Wow.
And so in those moments, I think Jon was really able to say like, you care about this. You shouldn't be afraid that there's space for you to add voice to that. Bring it. And I think that's what the show asks of everybody who works there. When you show up in the morning, we go into a morning meeting, the writers, the producers, the other news team, we are asked to share how we see the world, and that's how we craft the stories that we tell during the day.
And nobody in TV history has ever launched more successful careers than Jon Stewart with advice like that. You think about Stephen Colbert and John Oliver and Samantha Bee and Steve Carell and all these different people. It really is extraordinary.
It's Jon has a great eye for it, and as does Trevor. And I think what that show asks of its performers is to be funny, to be smart, to be thoughtful, and to be a Swiss Army knife.
Well, and you were there with Trevor, who we're looking at some video of right now, and obviously he could not be more different from Jon in terms of generation and their background and all the rest of that. How were they different in terms of the way they led the show?
Both were so kind. I think Trevor came on, and nobody knew Trevor. We had met him a few times before he got the big job, and I think Trevor was so open to everybody who'd been there. And trust me, walking into a show that had been successful for over 15 years, with a staff that had been there for a very, very long time, it was a weird space to walk into, and he was able to balance both being open to the tradition of The Daily Show and still being very clear about how he saw American politics. And right off the bat, he saw Donald Trump as somebody who could be the President of the United States. And when you walk into a place like The Daily Show in 2015, early 2016, a lot of people are like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right, he's the apprentice guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Trevor saw that right away, and that was because he had a fresh perspective on it. He was open to other people's perspective, and he really was a great collaborator. And asked a lot from the other comedians on the show as well. When he brought on Roy Wood Jr., Desi Lydic, and Ronnie Chang, like he asked us to bring our A game and wanted our voices to be a part of the show, which I think was really generous of him.
So right now, Jon is hosting the show on Monday nights. The rest of the news team taking turns to host it Tuesday through Thursday night. Especially love when you host. And we get to see you regularly now at the anchor desk after learning from Jon and from Trevor. What do you see as your voice, the distinctive part of The Daily Show with Jordan Klepper?
It's a little bit deeper, a little bit more gravelly.
Right.
You know, I think I care. I do think I am somebody who I live in New York. I have I believe in equality. I believe in progressive values, sure, but ultimately I'm a kid who grew up in Michigan, and so I have family on the left. I have family on the right. Again, what I loved about watching The Daily Show and why I'm a part of it right now is because Jon Stewart wasn't a partisan. He was somebody who called out BS. And so I try to hold that. I have that cut out and put over my desk the speech that Jon gave at the last Daily Show before he left and then came back.
Right.
But it's sort of a mission statement, and one that I truly believe in. It's like it's not about getting caught up in all of this. It's about getting caught up in calling BS on where you see it. And so I hope to bring that. I hope to bring a little bit of honesty and a little bit of comedy whenever I get to sit behind that desk.
All right, we're going to wrap things up on the show with something fun. This is called Personal Issues. We're not taking it to therapy.
Oh, God, I bet I could use it. Let me tell you, it's been a while.
Too expensive for that.
Yeah.
But this is 30 seconds of your cultural favorites. The first thing that comes to mind when you hear this question. All right. Jordan Klepper, what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show of all time would have to be Arrested Development.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie, Bottle Rocket by Wes Anderson.
Favorite book?
Favorite book, Moby Dick, Herman Melville.
Favorite sports team?
Michigan Wolverines, football.
Favorite athlete of all time?
Favorite athlete of all time, Jim Harbaugh, quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines.
Favorite comedian of all time?
Favorite comedian, Steve Coogan.
Who is your role model?
Who is my role model? It's my parents. You make them into one being, and they become my role model. Did I do it? Did I pass?
Yeah, you did it. You did it.
Oh, I did it.
What do you think about Harbaugh being the coach of the Chargers?
I love it. I mean, as a Michigan man, I'm heartbroken that he's not there, but I think he gave that state and that team so much. I want him to get that Super Bowl. He's going to do it in the weirdest, most Jim Harbaugh way possible. So I hope he does. I'm a Chargers fan now.
No, I love that. All right, we always play music on this show. So one of my favorite bands is Fleetwood Mac. So we're playing secondhand news for you because we thought that would be
I think that works.
Fitting.
That works. Yeah. And not royalty free. I'm impressed. You guys got some cash.
Congratulations.
Alex, thank you.
Keep up the great work. More of The Issue Is after this. Next to one of our guests.
This is nice.
Look at this
right?
guy.
Yeah.
Almost 6'5".
I'm almost there. This is where the hair gets me.
I love it. We'll be right back.